Good evening, students and parents, and welcome to JUKO 2020. My name is Kim. I'm the program leader for high school counseling, and it's a pleasure to be able to present to you together with other high school counselors here tonight. We have a long evening. We have prepared a lot of sessions for you, and we hope that you find these valuable. We would like to present to you in person, obviously. This is the best substitute that we have. So please stay engaged and don't hesitate to reach out to us with any questions after the sessions. I will come back to you in a little bit on how to do that. So the purpose of this evening is to highlight opportunities that ISM students would have after graduation. There are lots of opportunities for students around the world. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. We're going to explain in pretty good detail what the college research process looks like for, as well as the admissions process for countries around the world. And we have prepared some fantastic sessions for you. We hope that you find them useful and valuable, and you can of course choose to watch as many of them as you want, maybe not in one evening. We have sessions prepared for you on researching and applying to Europe, the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, and Asian countries. We're going to talk about how parents and students can work together through this process, and we encourage you to work closely with the high school counselors. We are here to support you as much as we can in the virtual environment. We have a session on some guidance for parents in working with your children through this sometimes very stressful process of applying to university. And we're providing information on testing, gap year, and financial aid. So a lot of sessions prepared for you here tonight, and we're very excited to get going. So I'm going to introduce you to our full team. Here you have all of us, 7 high school counselors. Some of these pictures are pretty identical to how we look in real life. And we also have our fantastic assistants here, Miss Tina, Miss Arnie, and Miss Naila. I'm going to share with you a little bit in terms of application results for seniors last year. So the class of 2020 applied to 22 different countries around the world, which is pretty unusual if you compare the destinations and applications to international schools around the world. ISM is incredibly diverse. I think I've talked about that before, and you can see that in the applications that students send. Students ended up in 16 different countries around the world. They also applied widely, which is pretty unusual, to be honest. 108 out of the seniors last year applied to 1 country. 49 applied to 2. 30 students applied to 3 countries. 4 students applied to 4, and we even had 2 students who applied to 5 countries around the world. The limit to applications is 10. The UCs count as 1, and UCAS count as 1. So sometimes students apply to up to almost 20 universities, but the limit is 10 unique applications. These could be all placed in one country. They could be placed around the world, as we can see here on the list. Do you have to apply to 10? No, you don't. Sometimes we have students who apply to 1, 2, and 3 colleges, and that's fine too if these are well defined. This is an overview of where students are now studying. So the matriculation list for class of 2020. And this is pretty similar to previous years. In parentheses here, you have the percentage from 2019. So last year, 54% of students went on to complete their further education in the United States, followed by Canada, which had a little increase here compared to the previous year. So 14% of students went to Canada, 10% of students went to the UK, followed by South Korea, where you had a little increase. And then the other countries here are very similar to previous years. A difference here is that we had 3 students going to Abu Dhabi, and there were none the year before. But there you go. At any time, if you want to study these graphs or think more about the information that I share, you could obviously just pause the presentation. The 5 most popular schools by applications. Most students apply to University of California. These are grouped up, so you have 9 campuses that students apply to. Most popular are always UCLA, Berkeley, and San Diego. We don't have any students applying to UC San Francisco, and the reason is that they don't offer any undergraduate degrees there. But all together, we had 189 applications to their campuses last year. The second biggest by application was UBC in Canada, where we had 44 shared space there with University of Toronto, followed by NYU and Northeastern. In terms of matriculation, so where students actually went, we had a record year for Toronto. We had the highest number of students going to U of T last year. So they probably created a nice little friends group there in Canada. So 12 ISM students went to Toronto last year, followed by UBC, Ateneo, Santa Clara, and Northeastern. So we have done a lot of work with senior students in this first semester. We have passed the early application deadline. Recommendation letters are completed. Students have very often finished their first main essay. We are going to continue sending applications for senior students until the end of this year, even leading into next semester. But our focus is now definitely going to be on you, grade 11 families. We're here for you. Our workload is actually not bad here at ISM, so we do have lots of time to spend with you. We would encourage you to reach out at any time and stay engaged with conversations with your guidance counselor. And this is sometimes how it feels for kids. It might come across as such a complicated, overwhelming process looking at universities around the world. There are many hoops to jump through, a lot of research to be done and reflections. So students might feel a little worried at this time. We know from experience that it always works out well. There are lots of universities to look at, depending on where you're applying. If you're applying to the UK, there are 100 plus universities. Students, of course, do not look at all of them. In the end, they apply to usually 5. The limit is 5 courses, could be at the same university or could be at different ones. Australia is kind of easier. If you're only thinking of Australia, usually students only look at the group of 8, which are the 8 most prestigious institutions in Australia. In total, there's a little bit more than 40. In Canada, usually students look at around 5, 6, 7 universities maybe, though you have 100 plus institutions available. It becomes a little trickier when you're applying to the United States, where they have almost 4,000 institutions available with 4-year degrees. So your personal criteria become obviously more important when you're looking at the United States, so you can narrow down that search, be that by region or by programs or by size or location or whatever it is. But students generally spend much more time researching universities if they're thinking about the United States. So this might be how some of the students are feeling right now. You might have this moment as we are talking, and that's okay, as long as you don't have this moment leading into your senior year, because much of the work should have been done by then, and that's why we are here to support you. So to be successful, it's key to start early. And I know that many students have already spent quite some time looking into university options and developing their personal criteria. But yes, it is important that you start early. It doesn't go wrong often, I have to say. And when it does, it's when students and families put it off and they wait until the senior year to start looking at colleges. So just the fact that you're here now listening to me indicates that you're ready to get going if you haven't really started yet. So thinking about the long list, most of what students are doing in grade 11 is developing this long list of universities. We call it the research list or the long list. You will then cut it down to about 10 universities in your senior year. It's common for students to have 15, 20 universities on their long list. It doesn't have to be. Again, as I said before, you have students that apply to fewer, and that's all right, depending on your personal situation. So cast this wide net and see what is out there. You're only going to apply to college once, so it makes sense to have a good look at universities that would fit your needs and your preferences before you make that final decision. Join virtual tours. That's the best that we have at this time, where we don't know how this summer is going to look like, but it's unlikely that you will be able to jump on a plane to visit universities in other parts of the world, but who knows? Who knows? If not, please do join virtual tours. There are lots of them by now. Use online university research tools. We have quite a few suggestions for you here tonight, focusing in on the factors that are really important for you as a family. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Keep your dreams alive during these uncertain times, and I know it's hard when we are in lockdown and you spend most of your time at home. The world will change again and life moves on, and we want to make sure that you are in an environment that is the best possible fit for you. So keep your dreams alive, but also be realistic. So we're going to have these conversations in the spring semester, and we will definitely let you know if we feel that your list has too many reach or even out of reach kind of universities on it. So be realistic in terms of your chances of getting accepted. And we're going to talk more about what that means in our country-specific sessions. So what does it mean to you? We talk a lot about fit, talk a lot about match, and we believe it's important that you go to a university that fits your personal criteria well, academically as well as personally. And these criteria are made up by you, you students and parents. With the support of your counselors. We have had a lot of conversations about fit in the beginning of this semester in the Bearcats and beyond. Students have defined their 5 most important criteria. We have done a fit survey, and we have had a lot of conversations back and forth in terms of what fit mean. And at the bottom here, you have some common criteria that students reflect on, as well as parents. And some of these would be part of your final list of criteria, your roadmap, if you will. Safety is something that is often mentioned by parents. Sometimes parents say, you know, a very important criteria for us is easy access to airports and maybe even one direct flight. So again, it depends on your personal situation. The program, obviously, we sometimes see that students are getting pretty far in their plans of applying to a university when they suddenly realize that they don't have the program that I'm interested in. So please have a good look at that in the earlier stages of your research. So we're going to come back to what it fit means to you and the personal criteria later on today. I'm going to play a little video here. The importance of doing what you love.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up, you know, being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society, and the ones that didn't, oftentimes it's the ones that are successful love what they did so they could persevere when, you know, when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it?
So do what you love. I'm not going to fill in on these comments. I think it's said it all. Make sure that you're on the right track, and figuring out what you love is kind of hard for a teenager, but work with the given at the moment. Look at what you love doing in high school and kind of build on these passions and see what kind of opportunities colleges would provide for you that are in line with your passions. There are some misconceptions that we often hear among students and parents. One of them is the more selective a college is, the better it must be, could be, but it might also have something to do with their marketing skills. So don't let the selectivity rate, the acceptance rate, be your only criteria in terms of what a good education would be for you. If it's easy to get in line with that, if it's easy to get in, it cannot be good, which is also, of course, not true. The best students are applying to the US or UK and Canada, therefore I should too. And so keep in mind your individual process, whatever that is to you. You will notice in a year and a half from now that your class will split up and go all over the world, and you're on your own unique path, and do what is right for you. Even if your friends are doing something else. If I make the wrong choice now, my future career life will be over, which is obviously not true either. You will be surprised to know that there is no correlation between the name of the university you graduate from and your future success. There are many universities out there where you would get a fantastic experience, and life is really not that predictable, or it's not a straight path. You will find your way making decisions over time, and we make some wrong choices and we make some right ones. So don't put so much pressure on yourself. There are lots of fantastic institutions, and we will give you the best kind of guidance that we can to make sure you find good fits. Only students who attend the most famous universities have jobs, are financially secure and happy. So obviously, I talked about that a little bit just now. It's also a false statement. My independent college counsel told me, so if you, and we do understand that some families work with independent counselors. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I don't take offense anymore. I would prefer to work together with you around issues that come up and recommendations sometimes that sound odd. If something feels odd to you, then there's probably something wrong with it. So please feel free to have open conversations with your counselor around advice that you might have had from an independent counselor, and we are more than happy to work with you as we move on. What really matters to employers, in line with what we talked about before, the most important, this is a recent Gallup survey that has gone out to employers. The most important for employers is your knowledge of the field that you're going into. Obviously, it's important that you have that content knowledge with you as you move on. They want you to be prepared for the job. In line with that, are the skills that you developed in college, the practical skills, just like working with professors and other students and doing internships. So included here would also be the soft skills, your ability to collaborate with your colleagues, finding solutions, finding information that you need to make informed decisions, dealing with stress, etc., etc. The college major, surprisingly maybe, is less important for employers. And what we know for a fact is that students most often go into fields that have nothing to do with what they studied in college. And maybe the world has changed quite a bit in the last 50, 60 years, but that is definitely true today. An exception would definitely then be if you're completing a pre-professional degree like engineering, but beyond that, the major matters less and less today. And the one I really want to point out here is where students earn the college degree. And I mentioned this before, there is no correlation, and we know that between the name of the institution and your future success. So employers would be less and less interested in where you graduated from over time. It's really rare that you as an adult have conversations with others in terms of where they graduated from or what kind of GPAs they had. It's very likely that no one is ever going to ask you about your GPA or your IB score later in life. And also where you graduated from. It might have some importance when you go for your first job interview, but in your second interview, the employer will be more interested in your skills your skill set, your personal characteristics, and what your previous employer has to say about you. So this is a student-driven process. The student is in the center, as you can see here with the homework. You are looking at universities around the world. Your parents are supporting you, and the counselors are supporting you as a family. But it's a student-driven process. You're in the driver's seat. We are here to support you along the way. But please, and we do understand that you would need input from us pretty regularly. And we are here happily sharing our experience with you. So parents' role in this process, and there's a whole session on the parents' involvement in the research and application process. So I'm going to be very brief, but do stay informed. Look out for communication from the counseling office. Please do reach out to us at any time if you have any questions. You are our highest priority. We will take time to listen and support you. Be an active participant in this process. Listen well to your children as they talk about used opportunities when they're open to talk to you about the application process. So this, again, of course, it depends on your family dynamics. I know from my own experience sending my oldest one off to college recently, last year, it's not always that he wanted to talk to me about the application process. He definitely did not want me to put any pressure on him or to take charge of the process. I was there listening to him when he needed it, and I used opportunities when he was in a good mood. So please do that. Listen well, be a guide, a counselor, a supporter, encourage your child, your young adult, but don't do the work for them, okay? So encourage these open conversations, maybe go out for dinner once a week at a restaurant, if possible, and have the conversations there. Let your child choose the restaurant and pick the menu maybe. Be really honest though with your non-negotiables so that your young adult knows what to work with. And that includes how much money is available for 3 or 4 years, and what kind of countries you would let them go to. Be very honest about your non-negotiables. Take part in the research. You can do research on CALFO, which is a fantastic research tool. Reach out if you don't have access and we will set you up. Take notes, reflect together with your young adult, do research again and discuss again, and continue through these cycles which are common in your research process. But don't always talk about college. 1 night per week is enough. Not always, not always. A few pitfalls to avoid, we talked about before, doing the work for your child, like a no-no is writing the essays for your child. University representatives pick that up really quickly, and so do we. It has to be the voice of a teenager. Please don't change your mind at the last minute. That becomes very stressful for children. So think through your non-negotiables and have these communicated early on. Nagging, as we know, never works. It's really tempting when you're stressed, but it backfires. Please do not nag. Letting your world revolve around school and university research. I know it's a stressful process, but trust in the process, trust in your young adult, and trust in the counseling department. And if you have any concerns or worries, please do reach out. Please also don't compete with your friends and co-workers. Please don't compare your child to other siblings or to your friends' children. Your child, your young adult will pick up on that really quickly and feel really sad about it. So please don't do that. Let the competition stay behind. Here's a timeline of what is coming up. The winter break, we will ask that students and parents complete the surveys that we've sent out, that we will mainly use in the meetings in the spring, but also when we later write your counselor letters for you. January to April is when we will meet with all families individually. More information is coming out in January. In February, we have a US mock admissions workshop. In May, June, we provide workshops on essays, personal statements, and applications. In the summer, you will continue the research, kind of wrap up on it, and then complete the first draft of the college essays. Then that would make your senior first semester much easier. In the fall semester, we again provide a number of workshops on the essays and applications. The focus would then be on the practical aspects of sending applications. And the focus in terms of essays would be on your supplements mainly. 15th October is when we prefer that most early applications to the United States will be completed, because most often the final deadline is 1st of November. In January is where most application deadlines will come up. And then we, again, in the following semester, we will work with seniors in Bearcats and beyond in January and February. In the grade 11 university meetings that we have in January, we'll talk about the university research that your young adult has done so far. We will talk about what else needs to be done to get ready to send applications in early on in grade 12. We review the transcripts, talk about the timeline moving forward. This is also when we will suggest some universities that could be a good match based on the criteria that you have shared with us. We go through what needs to be done on CLFO. We talk about recommendation letters from teachers, summer plans, etc., etc. So these are usually very inspirational meetings, and we're all looking forward to it. Just a note on the process itself, it is often a stressful process for students and parents. Students would mention various parts of it being more stressful, writing the essays, completing the testing, but most students would say that a stressful part is after they have sent applications and they're waiting for results. So we want to recommend that you are mindful of what other students are going through. Be a good community member, ISM, support each other, be kind. Remember that you all have different criteria and background and preferences and dreams. One size doesn't fit all. What might be a fantastic university for your friend might not be a good university for you. So keep that in mind as you're having your conversations in the months moving forward. Support each other. It's a stressful process very often. Also do remember that some students do not go straight to university. Some students are looking at doing a gap year or a few gap years even, doing military service and maybe doing internships and work. So be mindful, you're one community, take care of your brothers and sisters, and be happy when it goes well for your friends, and when it doesn't, be empathetic and towards yourself as well. Okay. One little more video before we end up on this introduction that ended up being pretty long. Here we go.
Before I went to college, I wish I knew that what I want matters the most, and I shouldn't always try to please everyone around me. Before I went to college, I wish I knew to listen to my parents' advice.
Before I went to college, I wish I knew that college rankings were just a number, and that while they're important to consider, they're not the be-all end-all of a school.
I wish I knew as a high school senior is that pro-con lists really do help and not to worry so much.
I wish I knew before I went to college that GPA is not everything and study is not everything. And I also wish I knew that by the time that I graduate, I still am not going to know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And that's okay. Before I went to college, I wish I knew both in the application process and in the college experience itself to prioritize people and relationships. There's no other environment in the world, I think, that's as diverse and bustling and just full of opportunities to collaborate and work and talk and get to know other people as a college campus.
What I wish I knew before college is that parties really aren't that fun.
Before going to college, I wish I knew that location doesn't matter where you go to school, because going to school in the city is expensive.
Before I went to college, I wish I knew that it's not about the name of the school you attend. It's really about what you do with the opportunities you're given at that school. So in other words, don't get bummed if you don't get into your dream school. You can still make the most of where you're at.
Before I went to college, I wish I knew I didn't have to go to a top 25 school to be successful.
Fantastic. Oops. Okay, this is my last slide. I hope that you enjoyed the sessions that are available for you tonight. I'm going to show you real quick how to see the other sessions, as well as how you can submit questions after the sessions. Here is our blog, counseling blog. This has been shared with you. Here's a link to all our presentations, to our YouTube page, where all the sessions are included tonight. And here at the bottom of the blog page, you will see a form where you can add questions for the different sessions. It will be open until the 27th at the end of the day, and we will follow up with you before the week of December 1st, so next week. Simply put in your email address here, mention which of the sessions you have questions about, and then type in your question here and submit. And I'm pretty sure that you can submit more than one. So if you have questions about more than one sessions, you can send these along to us and we get back to you as soon as we can. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the sessions here tonight. It's been really nice. It'd be nicer to see you, but this is fine. Have a fantastic evening. All the best. Bye-bye.